Lesson 107, number 12. It's a system of equations. They want us to use Cramer's rule, and they also want us to use the new, I call it expansion by minors. What are they calling it? They call it, oh, now I can't find the number. Darn. 12. Well, sorry, you can read it in your book. I can't find it in my book now. But they want you to use this method that I call expansion by minors. They call it something else, I think. So what you want to do is just like you would do with Cramer's rule. You're going to go ahead and get the coefficients. The x's go here, the y's go here, and the z's go here. And I just put the constants out here so I can remember when I start using Cramer's rule, I can look back at this matrix here. So I need to find the denominator of the coefficient matrix. Well, I need to find the coefficient matrix, which I'm going to use as a denominator for x, y, and z. So that means I got to find the determinant of this thing. So instead of repeating the next two rows and doing that thing where we go up the diagonals, we're going to use expansion by minors. So you can pick any row or any column to expand by. I like to pick ones that have zeros or ones in them, so I'm expanding by this column. So there's a checkerboard that goes plus, minus, plus, minus, plus, minus, plus, minus, plus. So these are coefficients. See how I got -2 as a coefficient and a 0 and a 1. If either one of these coefficients would have been a minus on the checkerboard, then I would have changed their sign. But they weren't. Remember, it went plus, minus, plus, minus, plus, minus, plus, minus, plus. Okay, so I'm not going to have to change their sign. I don't even have to calculate this matrix because it's going to get multiplied by 0, so that's gone. So where did I get these little matrices from? If I'm using the coefficient of 2, what I do is I cross out its row and I cross out its column and see what I'm left with. Can you see that this and this are the same thing? And then you just do that thing that you know how to find the determinants. You go 2 times 0 is 0 minus, that makes -9. So it's 0 minus -9, so that's +9. That's where I got my 18. That I don't have to worry about because it's getting multiplied by 0. This is 1 times 3 is 3 minus -2. 3 minus -2, that's the 5, and that gave me 13. -13. So that is going to be my denominator for x and y and z. That's why I put a little cloud on it. Okay. And then the numerators are going to be found like you've done before with Cramer's. I messed up on the very first one. I didn't have my negative sign on my 8, and I had to kind of go back and change everything. So for x, in the x row, you put the constants. Like you take these 3 numbers away and you put the constants in the x row, and then you leave the y and they're not rows, column in the x column. The y column and the z column, you leave them alone. So that's kind of, I don't know if you can see that, but that's what I've done. Okay, and then I'm just going to do expansion by minors again. I want to choose a nice row or column. I think I ended up using this because it had a 0 and a 1 in it. So if I'm using this, I have to check my checkerboard. Plus, minus, plus, minus, plus, minus. That thing has its sign has to change. So that's why there's a minus sign there. Plus, minus, plus. I don't care about the 0 because it's going to 0 out. So I got my 3 coefficients. The 0 is going to 0 out, so I don't even worry about it. This one, if I cross out the row and column of the -1, I get 1, 2, -8, 3. That's where those came from. If I cross out the row and column of the 3, not the -3, but the 3, that's negative because the checkerboard, plus, minus, minus. I get 7, 1, -8, -3. Okay, so then I don't have to worry about that part because it's a 0. 1 times negative 3 is negative 3 minus negative 6 minus negative 16. 3 minus negative 16 is the same as 3, or sorry, negative 3 minus negative 16 is negative 3 plus 16, and that's where my 13 came from. And then multiply it by the negative 1, you get negative 13. Negative 3, okay, 7 times 3, well, that's negative 21 right there, minus negative 8. So negative 21 minus negative 8 is negative 21 plus 8. And so you can't barely read it, but I think that was a 13 times 3. You can do the math on your own. And I got a 39 for that value and a 13 for that negative 13. Add them together, get 26, and then so I'm going to go 26 over that denominator of negative 13. So that's negative 2. 26 over negative 13 is negative 2. There's x. I'm going to do it 2 more times. Now I have to do it for y. So I still need this other matrix. For y, I leave the x row alone, the x column alone, and I change the y column. This column right here, I substituted in the, see how I stuck the constants in? And then I left this one alone. And then I'm going to choose a row or column to expand by. I want to choose something that has some zeros. I think I chose this column. So these are the 3 nice numbers that I chose to work with because there was a 0. So I'm going to check my checkerboard. Plus, minus, plus, minus, plus, minus, plus, minus, plus. So every time I was over here on my coefficients, I had a plus. So that means I don't have to change the sign. If I would have had a minus, I would have to change their sign. Okay, so there's my 3 coefficients. Inside the matrices, you get the matrix by crossing out the row and the column of the coefficient. 1, 3, negative 8, 0. See where it came from? That one, I don't even care what that one is because that one's going to get multiplied by 0. And then this one, you can see that if you cross out the bottom row and the column, you have 7, negative 1, 1, and 3. That's where that came from. Then you do your determinants. Negative 2 times, you go 1 times 0 is 0 minus negative 24. That's positive 24. That negative 2 just came right from the coefficient. And then over here, 7 times 3 is 21 minus negative 1. So that made 22. That's where that came from. Those make 48 plus 22, that's negative 26. So the 13 came from, it should have been coming with me all along. That's the denominator of every single one of these coordinates. So I got 2 for y. And then when you do the whole procedure again for z, you leave the first and second column alone. You put the coefficients in for the third column. I chose to expand probably by this column again. I'm just picking this one because it has a 0 in it. I could have done any row or column. So check the checkerboard, plus, minus, plus, minus, plus, minus, plus. So everything's positive. I don't have to change the signs. Grab my little matrices. I'm running out of time here, so I'm just going to let you look at it. This one actually goes away. And then you just calculate this one and this one. They turn out to be 26 and negative 13. 26 minus 13 is 13, and you end up with negative 1. And then you can write your answer as negative 2, comma 2, comma negative 1.